Have you ever wondered exactly how tall every brawler is in Brawl Stars? Today, that's what we're gonna find out, starting with the very shortest brawler in the game, and that's actually Hank. That's right, that's him down here, way down there, only at 4 inches tall. He's a shrimp, a literal shrimp, but that's a pretty big one. But you watch out, because Hank's gonna come back later because we haven't even mentioned his tank yet. Next up on our list though is actually Mo. Mo is pretty straightforward. He is a literal mouse, so as such, Mo is very, very small. I don't know how big he is in his driller, and in game, these things don't exactly match correctly because Brawl Stars has to scale up or down the brawlers when you're actually seeing them, or else you wouldn't really be able to even see them or play them in game. But here we're going to do them much more realistically, and of course Mo down there is only 5 inches tall. Taking a big jump up to our next brawler though is Tick. 1 foot 8 inches. I mean, that's still like very, very short. As you can see these beautiful tape lines on me, that's 1 foot, and that means we got Tick right over here. He's a tiny little guy. If he were any smaller, I would probably just squish him right here and now because he probably deserves it, but we'll let you pass this time, Tick, at 1 foot 8 inches tall, but just above him, just barely beating him out, is actually Eve at 1 foot 9 inches tall. Eve is a flea, and fleas are normally like 1/8 of an inch tall or 0.3 centimeters, but she's an alien flea, so we give her more because aliens and stuff, right? So she's actually in her spaceship right now. Outside of her spaceship, we're gonna give her about 8 inches, but we'll count her in her spaceship at 1 foot 9 inches tall. Kit is a cat, and cats normally are pretty short, but he does stand up on all his back legs, so he's 2 foot tall. Still pretty tall for a cat, but he's still just a cat. And while Kit may be a cat, our next brawler is a lobster, and that would be Clancy. Now, Clancy's a lobster, however, lobsters can get pretty big. In fact, the largest lobster we've seen is about 44 pounds and just over 2 feet. And well, I'm gonna give Clancy the benefit of the doubt because he's been genetically modified to be a brawler. He is a big old lobster, but he's still just a lobster. So next up we have the dog Ruffs, and Ruffs is about 1 inch taller than the lobster. And Ruffs is a beagle, most likely a beagle, maybe a basset hound. Speaking of dogs, here comes my dog. Hey, Monet, come here, come here. Okay. Look at you are taller than Ruffs. Can you believe it? All right, get out of here. All right. Get out of here, you filthy animal. Okay, all right. Well, we got both dogs in here now. Okay. All right, go. A surprise one here is actually Nani. She is 2.5 feet tall. That's in freedom units. I don't actually know what normal metric numbers are because we're backwards in the United States, but Nani here is actually pretty tall for a robot assistant. Next we have 8-Bit, and of course you think that 8-Bit is a big arcade machine, and arcades are actually pretty tall, however not 8-Bit. He's actually a tabletop arcade, well with the legs that are growing out underneath him. So he's not real short, but he's pretty short. Sorry 8-Bit, you're short and slow. You're not gonna get the girls that way. Then we have Shade, who doesn't even need a lower half. He is just a floating hoodie. Now, it is an adult size hoodie, but it's a floating hoodie. We gave him a little bit of extra height because he floats off the ground, but Shade here at 2 foot 10 inches tall. Now, just above him, but still under the 3 foot mark, is my personal favorite brawler, and that's Crow. He's only 2 foot 11 inches tall. You know what? Most crows are probably only about that big. He's a pretty big crow, and you know, he can throw daggers, so he's got that going for him. Height-wise though, he's still pretty short because we're gonna get way taller than Crow. But coming in at 3 foot even is actually Spike. Now Spike is actually based off a hedgehog cactus, and those normally don't get very big, but he's a mutant and he throws spike bombs, so you know, we're gonna let that one pass. He's 3 foot tall, still pretty short, only up to here. Only up to here on me. He's like at my hips. I'm 6 foot tall. He's a lot smaller. Taller than Spike though, we have Bonnie. She is actually just a kid. She's a tiny little girl. So yeah, only 3 foot 3 inches tall. I don't know how she fits inside her cannon. It's probably a pretty big one, but yeah, Bonnie herself is a pretty small little girl. It's all right then, it's all right, it's okay. Coming in at just 1 inch taller than Bonnie is actually Sprout. Now Sprout was based off of Wall-E, and in an interview, a Pixar executive said that Wall-E was 3 foot 4 inches, so we're just gonna say that Sprout here is also 3 foot 4 inches tall. 1 inch taller than Sprout is RT at 3 foot 5 inches. And this one, honestly, I don't even know, he's a security camera. How is he a 3'5" security camera? I don't know. It's Star Park. Weird things happen. Just Go with it. He's 3'5". Don't question it. Also at 3'5" is Squeak. He's a pile of dog drool, a very big pile of dog drool, but nevertheless, 3'5" worth of yeah. Now Miko is a monkey. What kind of monkey? We actually don't even really know what kind of monkey he is, but if he were a chimpanzee, he could go up to almost 5 foot tall. Maybe that's why Miko's angry all the time. He's got the little guy syndrome, you know, he's just mad at the world. That's probably what happened. Sorry, Miko. Coming in at 3.5 feet is Lou. Lou is kind of a weird one as well. He's a snow cone machine, but he also has legs and, you know, we're not gonna try to make sense out of it. He's 3.5 feet tall, just go with it. It's Lou. Coming in at 3 feet 7 inches tall is actually Carl. Now, if he was in this cart, he would be quite a bit shorter, but hey, in this competition, every inch counts. So 3 feet 7 goes to Carl. Still a very, very small robot minor geologist. We're starting to work our way up towards 4 foot, but still under 4 foot, we have Leon. Again, Leon's a little kid. So he's just a little kid who likes lollipops and he got lost in Star Park. Sorry, Leon. He's 3 foot 8 inches tall. A couple inches taller than Leon is actually Ash. Ash is a literal trash can. However, he does have legs that prop that trash can up a little bit higher. So normal trash cans would be about here, but then again, legs. Ash has legs, so yeah, Ash. He's a trash can with legs. Also under 4 foot still is Buzz. Buzz is an angry little man in a dino suit. Sorry, Buzz, you're less than 4 foot tall. He's almost as wide as he is tall. Now in the animation, Sandy looks extremely small, but again, Sandy's just a young kid, so 3 foot 10 inches, still pretty short. He's not very old. He's just a little guy who likes to sleep. You know what? Give him a break. He wants to go take a nap. It's okay, go, you can do it. Now we don't exactly know what Lily here is. We know she's a girl that got messed up in that enchanted forest, and now she's turned into an assassin. She's also very small, 3 foot 11 inches tall. Finally, someone who cracks the 4 foot barrier, and that is Cordelius. Now, Cordelius just barely made it to 4 inches, and that's also aided by that weird mushroom hat of his, which is kind of weird, but he's from the Enchanted Forest. At least he's taller than Lily. However, not as tall as Doug, as we're gonna find out. In fact, not even close. We'll get there. There's another 4 footer on this list, and that would be Dynamite. Dynamite is actually an old man, so how is he only 4 foot tall? It makes no sense to me, but the dude is very angry. But if you look at the dynamite sticks in his hand, those are about 8 to 10 inches each. You stack those up one on top of each other, and yeah, it takes about 5 of those, and there's Dynamite. So he is a 4 foot old man who's very angry about having to mine and pretty much everything else. He's insane. You're insane. Get away from me. There's a lot of brawlers at 4 feet apparently, because Gene here is also 4 foot tall. He's a genie, or at least he has the lamp of it. I don't really know. He's weird. He's an evil, crazy spirit dude. I don't know. It's Gene. He's 4 foot tall. Another brawler that is actually one of the new brawlers is Trunk. Now, technically there are a bunch of ants inside here. And yes, Trunk is a tree, but he's been chopped off. You know, it's just a very small portion of said tree, or else he'd be way taller. Dynamite, however, isn't the only old man who is short. For that, we also have Gale. He does crack 4 feet though, 4 feet 1 inches that is. He's an old man. He's starting to slump over by now. You know, sorry, Gale. I'm gonna be there one day as well, but today's not that day. Now, the same height as Gale is actually Nita. However, her hat does, you know, boost her up there a little bit, so she would be shorter than Gale, but you know, she's wearing a hat, so that's what counts, and she is as tall as Gale is. However, Bruce is on this list too. We'll get there a little bit later because that dude is massive. Just taller than her is Jessie. 4 foot 2 inches tall. Now she's also a little kid, but honestly not that bad. 4 foot 2 inches, it's better than some of the other ones. Otis is also 4 foot 2 inches, although, what even is Otis? Do you know? I don't know. Now Meg is a funny one. 4 foot 3 inches. She does beat out Otis and Jessie, but that's not including her mech. With her mech, she'd be much, much taller, but still outside of her mech, she's only 4 foot 3. She's a very small little girl as well. Coming in at 1 inch taller than Meg is B, which would be, you know what? Come here, Tilly, come here. I'm curious how tall Tilly is compared to her favorite brawler. You know what? Actually, Tilly is pretty close to as tall as B. They're about the same size. How do you feel about that?
Is she taller?
No, you're actually taller than her. Now, the same height as B, we actually have Griff. I don't know what kind of guy is under there, and the fact that he has an entire cash register on his head and he's still only 4'4" makes you wonder, but Griff is actually a pretty small dude. Makes sense, he's very mean to his employees. He's mad because he's short. Deal with it, Griff, deal with it. Now the cousin to Jesse is actually Penny, but Penny is taller, only by a couple inches, but nevertheless, Penny comes in at 4'5". This next one is weird. Okay, so Jae Young is one of the new brawlers. Now, I put him at 4'7", but I'm gonna be real. If you look at some of the animations, this dude looks like he is like 2 foot tall. He can jump on top of counters. He is so tiny, but he's a Korean dude. And surely they got at least to be 4'7". I don't know, this one's confusing. Brawl Stars measurements are usually kind of all over the place. In fact, when I asked Danny about it, he was like, oh, we don't even actually have any real measurements. It's kind of tough to figure out. Right there with Jae Young though is Mr. P. 4'7" as well, very, very short. Also kind of explains why he's just mad at the world. Like literally this guy is mad at everyone and everything. He's a vile little dude. Probably because he's mad because he's short. The next guy is actually rather happy, and that would be Poco. Of course, he is like an undead mariachi, which is still, 4'8" is really short, but I don't know what happened to Poco, to be honest. Even with his hat, 4'8", he's a tiny little guy. Maybe he was young when he passed away, we don't really know. He can play guitar, and he's always a jolly dude. That's all we really care about. Now, Chuck might actually be really tall, but Chuck is like in a wheelchair, so we don't know how tall he actually is. Now, most wheelchairs are about 35 inches or so to the back of them, and then above that is Chuck. Plus, he's got that really tall hat, so that gives him a lot of extra height, so Chuck actually sits up pretty tall considering that he's not even standing. Now we're getting close to 5 foot tall, but not quite there yet. In fact, Daryl is actually a couple inches underneath 5 foot, and that's mainly because he's a barrel, like literally like an old oak cask. But then again, he's got feet out the bottom, and that hat actually adds quite a bit of height as well. So 4'10" is more than you'd think, and he is very round. It's okay, we ain't judging Daryl, but you're very round. Just as tall as Daryl, but not nearly as thick as Meeple. In fact, you're weird looking, Meeple. You're weird. Now, some of you might think that BB is really tall, but in actuality, she's not. She's only 4'11", and that's actually giving her a little bit of extra credit here because I've seen some animations where she's really short, but she's a young girl with a baseball bat. So I'm not going to talk bad about her because she might just beat me up right here now. And the first brawler to crack the 5 foot mark is actually a robot, and it's Barley. 5 foot tall. He is a robot. He's actually about the same height as all the other robots in the game, except for like the big boss, which we'll get there, and all the little tiny roller bots as well. They're like the size of Tick. But Barley is a pretty average size robot at 5 foot tall. Also coming in at 5 foot is Barry. He's a pony, you know, he must be like a Shetland pony because you're not real tall here, Barry, but still, he's a very, very jolly guy, never in a sore kind of mood.
Color me bad.
Our next brawler comes from the Swamp of Love, and it's Willow. She comes in at 5 foot 1 inches tall. Also from the Swamp of Love is actually Allie. She is just barely taller than Willow. In some of the animations, you can see them standing right next to each other, and Allie is taller than Willow, but not by much, at over just a half of an inch taller. Now at 5 foot 2 inches tall, we have Juju. Now Juju is like a voodoo kind of magic user, and voodoo kind of originates from Haiti and or Africa, so the average height of a Haitian woman is 5 foot 2 inches, so that's how I came up with the 5 foot 2 inches here for Juju. Coming in just over the top of Juju is Kaze. Again, the average height for a Japanese woman is 5 foot 2.5 inches tall. So that's where we come up with Kaze's measurement. She is a pretty average Japanese woman, although she is anything but average because she can actually be multiple brawlers in one. She's an ultra legendary. At 5 foot 3 inches tall, we have Tara. I used just the average height of an Egyptian woman, and I'm not sure exactly that's what she is, but I'm guessing. So Tara is 5 foot 3 inches tall. Now the wild card here is actually our next person who is not a brawler. It's Wasim. Wasim is actually 5 foot 4 inches tall. Hey, listen, Wasim, you're taller than Tara. That's good. However, you're shorter than a lot of these brawlers. It's okay. It's respectable, Wasim. Don't feel bad about it. Actually, our next brawler is the same height as Wasim, and that would be Colette at 5 foot 4 inches tall. You know, maybe she can be obsessed with Wasim next. We don't know. Run, Wasim. Seriously, run. But Wasim is joined with good company because also with Colette, we have Lumi, Melody, and Stu, all coming in at 5'4" tall. Now, the weird one here is Stu because he's a robot, but he does roll on a wheel, so that gives him some extra height. But yeah, 5'4", not bad, Stu. You're just as tall as Wasim. Take it, man. It's a good one. Our next brawler is Gray. Now, Gray was actually based off of an old silent film actor named Charlie Chaplin, and he was 5'5" tall in real life, so that's what I went with here, 5'5" for Gray. But Gray's not the only brawler at 5'5", because as you can see, we got quite a few other brawlers here at 5'5". Not only got Larry and Lori, you know, they're two bots that are 5'5" tall. They're both identical, actually. They just use different weapons. But we also have Mandy. And then finally rounding us out here at the end of this 5'5" debacle is Mina, the brand new brawler. She's the average height of a Brazilian woman, so 5'5" tall for Mina. Coming in at 5'6", we have another array of brawlers. We've got Charlie, first one up here. Then we have Edgar, also at 5'6", pretty average teenage boy. We've got Piper, Shelly, and Finks as well. They're all 5'6". Now, Shelly's the pretty tall one of the bunch here because she is a woman. Her hair might actually give her a little bit extra, but 5'6" is where she's standing at right now. Now, we've got a bunch of brawlers that are at 5'7" tall, but before I show you those, we need to welcome another person here who's also 5'7", and that is OJ. OJ is also 5'7" tall. Right there with him is Kenji. Kenji's an average height for a Japanese male. Right up next to him, we have Grom, and then followed up by Janet. Now, Janet does get a little bit extra height because of that hair, that ponytail that sticks up there, but 5'7" is still pretty good. Max also is pretty darn tall for a woman, 5'7" tall, but Pam, she's probably a little bit wider than the other ones. Don't worry, it's all good. We love you every which way. And then we end off finally with Rico. Rico is actually a bot, and he's a very tall one, but he's a little bit shorter than a vending machine as we've seen in some animations. So yeah, Rico, 5'7" tall as well, joining the other brawlers as well as OJ. Coming in at 5'8" tall, we have a couple of girl brawlers first off, and that is Ems. Now Ems, she's a zombie. We don't know how tall zombies are. Well, she's just an undead woman, actually, I guess. But she's a very tall one at that. 5'8" is very tall for a woman. But they're not the only brawlers who are 5'8" tall, because up next we got a couple guy brawlers. We've got Ollie and we've got Surge. Now, Surge is also a robot, but a pretty big robot at that. Up next, though, is actually my editor, Toma, at 5'8.5" tall. What's up, Toma?
Where are we, bro? What?
How'd that extra ½ inch show up on there?
Don't worry about it.
I'm pretty sure he squeezed that one in there. Anyway, 5'8.5" tall is my editor, Toma. Moving up the height scale, we are well above my shoulders, getting close to my height at 6 foot tall, but right now we've got Brock. Now, Brock is 5'9" tall. That is with his normal cut, not his fresh cut. If we were gonna give him his fresh cut, he would probably gain a couple inches, but yeah, 5'9" is still pretty good for Brock. Right there with him, however, is Colt. Colt is just the classic all-American guy. He's 5'9" tall, an average height for an American male. But there's actually some girls on that list as well, like Jackie at 5'9" tall. That is really tall for a woman, but I mean, she's a construction worker, so are you gonna argue with her? Because I'm not. Right after her, though, is Lola. Lola's inspiration is an actress named Anouk Ami, who actually was a star in a film called Lola, and she was 5'9", so that's what I put Lola at, which is really tall for a woman. Next up, at 5'10" tall, is actually one of the new brawlers, Ziggy. Now, Ziggy was inspired by David Bowie, or maybe even Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, so they were both right around 5'10" tall, so we give Ziggy the 5'10" nod because that's where he is. Although right after him is Angelo. Now, Angelo's gonna cheat a little bit here because his little antenna on the top of him, that gets him up to 5'10" tall. If we didn't count that, he would actually be a little bit shorter, but you know what? Hey, Angelo, it is what it is. Antennas count as well. But Fang, he's actually just 5'10". He's just a very classic, pretty average height guy as well, maybe a tiny bit taller than average. 5'10" for Fang, pretty respectable. Now we're getting very close to my height. Just an inch shorter than me, we have Amber and Buster at 5'11" tall. Now Amber, she does have like a fire hat on, so that gives her some extra height, but she'd still be tall regardless. However, Buster, he's just a pretty big dude. Another guy that's really tall is Draco. It's not as impressive though as Rosa because she is also 5'11" tall. She's a boxer, And she's really big. I would not want to mess with her. So here we are at my height, 6 foot tall. I am way taller than a lot of the brawlers that have come and went. However, I'm not taller than my best friend Kairos. He's actually the same height as me. We're both 6 foot tall. But me and Kairos have good company because Chester and Sam are also both 6 feet tall. Now Chester, he's got a hat on, so he gets a couple inches extra out of that Jester's hat, but you know what, we're gonna let it slide this time. Sam, however, he doesn't even have any hair to help him out. Dude, just 6 foot tall. Bald-headed, but 6 foot tall. Hey, okay, you got a little bit of hair. I get it. He's bald. From here on out, they're all going to be taller than me. What better way to show you that than my friend Bobby here? He is 6 foot 3 inches. He's a pro player for SSG. He's really tall. I mean, pretty thin, but he's a really tall dude. Bobby's not the only one that's tall though, because Mortis is right there with him. Now granted, Mortis has got a hat that gives him quite a bit, but we don't even want to talk about Mortis without a hat. That's just unnatural. Mortis is also 6 foot 3 inches tall with the hat. We'll give it to him. Moving up the scale is actually a weird one here, and that is Doug. 6 foot 4 inches tall. He's a big dude. Of course, that neck gives a lot of extra length, but Doug, very tall. But right there with him, kind of a creepy one, is Byron. Byron's also 6 foot 4 inches tall, very tall, lanky, and he's just kind of like a big, tall, weird, creepy businessman selling potions, and it's unnatural, I tell you right now. Taller than Byron though is actually Bo, 6 foot 5 inches. However, he would be way shorter, but look at that hat. Dude, that hat is really tall, so it actually gives him a bunch of extra height. But yeah, 6 foot 5 inches for Bo. We're not gonna take his hat from him. Now we're getting into some brawlers that are just mountains of men, or monsters as you'll see. Bull, however, is 6 foot 6 inches tall. That is a big, big dude. I mean, he's not only tall, he's also broad, and he's got a shotgun. No thanks, I'm good, we're good. You know who's taller than Bull though? Actually Ken, KFC. He's actually taller than Bull, 6 foot 7 inches tall. I know Ken, he's a good friend of mine, and the dude is freakishly tall. Not quite as big and built as Bull, but taller. You know who else is 6 foot 7 inches tall? That would be El Primo. However, unlike Ken, El Primo is ripped. He is a big, massive man, and I would not want to get suplexed by that dude. Do you remember how small Nita was? She was just a tiny little girl. But she's not the only one who comes out on the battlefield. When she unleashes her pet Bruce, yeah, 7 foot tall. Now, Bruce is a grizzly bear, and when they stand up on their hind legs, 7 foot is actually kind of average. They get bigger than that, but yeah, 7 foot tall bear coming at you. That's why it takes so many shots. But even bigger than Bruce is Frank. Frank is 8 foot tall. Now, the reason why he's 8 foot tall is because he's based off of the monster Frankenstein from the novel. And in that novel, Frankenstein is 8 foot tall. So yeah, Frank is 8 foot tall. How big is that hammer? I don't know, but I don't want to get smashed by it. I can tell you that much right now. Now, I also want you to flash back to our very first brawler, Hank, that tiny little shrimp. Remember I said he would be back? Well, here he is. This is Hank in his tank. He is 9 foot 6 inches tall in his tank. Now, I know it doesn't show really in-game, but again, like I mentioned before, in-game is weird. They have to like shrink and enlarge things to make them playable and viewable. But in real life, that tank is 9 foot 6 inches tall, which is the same height as a US Abrams tank. He's a tiny little shrimp up there, but it's a big old tank. But if you thought that that was going to be the biggest thing, you'd be wrong, because up next we have the Robo Boss. If you ever went into the training cave and you wanted to wail on something, this is what you would be firing at. It's pretty good target practice. I mean, how are you gonna miss, honestly? The thing's gigantic, but it's not actually the most gigantic thing in this game. The number one biggest thing in Brawl Stars is Kaiju. Kaiju is 14 feet tall. He is a literal monster. Do you want to get eaten by that? I don't think so. And that, my friends, is all of the brawlers in Brawl Stars, as well as some of the other monsters and some of my friends as well. From the shorter ones on Wasim to also the giants over here with KFC. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe and use code LEX. See you guys.